Hi, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. It's the last day of the month, so I have some Halloween inspiration for you. And of course, I'm going to be using the brand new Heffy Doodle release, which is now available as of today on the 31st. Available to pre-order the new release. So I'm showing off a couple of the items. I have Fright Night pattern paper, and I'll also be grabbing the enamel dots later. I have the Hocus Pocus Sparkle Mix, Happy Halloween Shadow die cuts, the Essential Phrases stamp set, Cathedral Window die cuts. I also have my two new favorite stamp sets and their coordinating dies from the release, which are Let's Hang Out and Ghoul Friends. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on my paper picking. So I'm going to be grabbing some polka dotted paper from the Fright Night pack. I choose the purple polka dot and the green stripe, but I will eventually change my mind and I'm going to use all polka dots on my card. But right now I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to create my shaker window so I can get my die cutting done. So I am taking out the smallest of the stitched cathedral window dies. I checked the medium, but it was going to be too big for an A2 size card for what I was going for my Halloween shaker card. So I'm going to be using the smallest of the stitched windows. And as you can see, it fits nicely with the Happy Halloween shadow die cut, and then I'm going to use the Wishing You A from the Essential Phrases sentiment stamp set. So my card sentiment will be Wishing You A Happy Halloween. And I'm going through my paper and I'm trying to decide what I want as a background because I was going to do purple or green, but I really wanted my sparkle mix from the Hocus Pocus sparkle mix to really stand out on my card. So I went back through my paper pack and picked out this really pretty kind of gray, I want to say taupe, but I don't know if taupe's the right color that I want to say, but this nice gray background. It kind of has like a brown gray feel to it. And that's going to be the background of my shaker. So I grabbed my Imperial Stitch rectangle dies and I'm just going to use these to help me with die cutting. So my purple will be my card front and the gray will be the back of my shaker. I could have just used my little trimmer to cut it out, but I went ahead and just die cut it. So now I want to make sure I have my window out of the purple pretty centered and have plenty of room for what I'm going to stamp onto my background. So I'm going to use that spider web and the Wishing You A. The spider web is from the Let's Hang Out stamp set, and it looks like it's going to fit perfectly how I was envisioning it inside of my cathedral window. So now I'm grabbing my Heffy memo tape and using my grid mat to center my cathedral window die onto my purple cardstock. And like I said, that will be the front of my card, so it's going to have the window, and that gray will go behind. So now I'm going to work on stamping my sentiments. So I'm grabbing that Heffy tape again, and I'm centering my gray cardstock behind my purple cardstock. I'm going to put it inside my MISTI and use my magnet only on the gray cardstock. And then I'm going to add my spider web to the top part of my window, and then I'm going to add the sentiment Wishing You A centered and underneath that spider web. So I've got it where I want it on my paper. I'm using the grid on my MISTI to make sure it's centered and straight. And then I pulled off the purple pattern paper and I'm going to stamp this onto the gray for my background. So I'm going to stamp it 2 times with that ink and make sure I have really good coverage. This was just VersaFine in Onyx Black. And now I have my sentiment that will be inside of my shaker stamped. So I'm going to center it back onto that purple piece of pattern paper so we can see how it will look peering out through the window, and it's perfect. I love it. I love that spider web on the top part of the cathedral window. So continuing on with my sentiment, I'm going to do the Happy Halloween. Here's where I changed my mind and grabbed the green cardstock, and I'm going to use the black polka dotted paper from this pack. As you can see, I've already used it once to be the Happy Halloween sentiment, and then I'm going to use the green to be my shadow. So I'm just trimming around the dies because I like to conserve my paper, and then I'm going to use some memo tape to help keep the dies stays in place on my pattern paper. And then I'll grab my cutie little die cut machine and run it through. So I will run through the black cardstock for Happy Halloween, and then I'll run through the green cardstock for my background, or not cardstock, but pattern paper. So now I'm going to pop those out and I will set my dies aside. For the little, inside pieces to the cursive letters, I'm just going to grab a pick and just punch those out. My little mini die cut machine just die cuts so well. I absolutely love it. I'm going to glue on the Happy Halloween words to the shadow. So I'm grabbing my glue and just adding little tiny dots behind the letters and then just tapping it with my finger to spread out the glue. And that way it doesn't just like squeeze out the sides when I press the sentiment onto the shadow. So that completes my sentiment for the card. So we are going to move on towards making the shaker. So I'm going to grab some of my clear acetate. Heffy Doodle has some great sturdy acetate in their shop. And I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive all around the window. I'm not being overly perfect with it because this is just securing the acetate to the pattern paper. This doesn't really have anything to do with the shaker. This is just the window. So I added enough adhesive to make sure that my acetate will stay in place and my pattern paper won't fall off. Now I'm going to grab some of my Heffy Doodle adhesive, foam adhesive. This is the smaller width of the roll. I believe it's 3 millimeters. I'm looking around on my desk for my packaging and I can't find it, but I believe it's 3 millimeters, and then the wide one is 5 millimeters. And I am applying foam adhesive all around the window. Now, when I get to the parts where I want to curve the foam, I am going to pull back that release paper, as it just makes it easier to curve foam around edges when both sides of the release paper are removed. So now I'm taking the wider of my roll and I'm just going to fill in some of the larger gaps. Since this is a wider foam adhesive, I'm just using it on areas where I have a little more space. And now I'm going to peel off all the release paper for all of my foam adhesive and open up my Hocus Pocus sparkle mix and dump a bunch of those beautiful sequins and gems in there. I'm making sure they are all flat and I have enough of the sparkle mix that I'm happy with. And then I'm also making sure that the rhinestones and gems in there are flipped so that the back of the gem will be towards the back of the card. I'm adding some more glue to my background for my shaker, and I'm going to center that onto my A2 size card base. This is a top folding. And now I'm going to grab my MISTI to help me with placing these together. So I'm putting the front of my shaker, which is A2 in size, into the bottom right hand corner of my MISTI, and then took my A2 card with the background and used that corner to line it up and press down to seal my shaker closed. So that is my shaker window. I think it looks so cool. I love the colors. I love that the Fright Night and Hocus Pocus, they just mix really well together. So before continuing on with my card, I want to get my stamping and coloring done. So I grabbed some of my alcohol marker friendly cardstock from Heffy Doodle, and I'm going to add my little spider, one of my bats, the little fly, and the tree branch for my bat to hang on from the Let's Hang Out stamp set. I will add in a ghost from Ghoul Friends later on in the video, but at this point I was thinking I was only going to have enough room for critters, so I was just going to work with these two plus the fly and tree branch. And I stamped it in some black ink that is alcohol marker friendly. I'm going to speed up my video even more, but wanted to zoom in on my coloring so you can see how I color. I'm using GB 9 and 7 for my tree branch. These are Spectrum Noir Illustrator markers. I grabbed a clear Wink of Stella to color in my little fly wings. And for my bat, I'm going to use my brown grays. I'm starting with 9 as my darkest and then moving into 6 as my darker medium tone, adding in more shadow. And then I'm going to grab BG4 to color in more of my bat, again creating more shadow and bringing it out the darker into the light. And then finally I'm going to color over the whole thing with BG2, and that will just help blend all the colors together and make my bat look black but still in a gray tone, so it's not this really dark critter you can't see. And then I'm going to color the ears, inside the ears, with purple and peach. I just thought giving it this more vibrant ear color inside would look really cute and kind of match the darker theme of the card. For the spiders, I'm using BO2, GY3, and GY2 to color in my little spider. I wanted it to be like an orangey yellow spider, matching the sequins inside of the sparkle mix. And I will add a little more BO at the end to just darken up the shadows a little bit, make it look fuzzy. And then I have a blush for the cheeks, and I'm going to be grabbing my white gel pen, as you can see here, to add highlights throughout my images. And once my coloring is done, I will grab the coordinating dies from the sets, and I'm going to use my Heffy memo tape again to make sure my dies are centered around my images, and then run it through my little mini die cut machine. Again, love this guy so much. And I'm going to go ahead and pop out my images. They cut so beautifully. I absolutely love coordinating dies for my stamp sets. I do have a scan and cut, but let's be honest, the feel of the dies, the way they cut the images, is just a lot of fun. So now I'm going to work on the placement of everything. Here you can see is where I'm like, you know what, I totally have room for a ghost. So I stamped and die cut out one of my little ghosts, and I'm just using Ice Gray 2 to add in some subtle shadows and a peach color to add in cheeks, and then my gel pen to add a little highlight to the cheeks. Since my ghost is white, adding white gel pen wasn't going to do a whole lot. So now I am really happy with my layout. I like my critters, my ghosts, my sentiment. And so I'm going to grab some thin foam adhesives. These are foam squares, and again, the thin ones, because I already have so much going on the card. I just wanted to have a little bit of elevation. So I use those foam squares, the thin ones, to attach my sentiment, all of my critters, and my little branch for my bat. So now I'm going to add some fun enamel dots from the Fright Night enamel collection. Again, these match perfectly with the colors of the pattern paper pad. So now my card is all done. This shaker looks awesome. It's doing moving around really well. I'm just going to use some scissors to trim off my little branch that was sticking off the side of the card. And here is a final look at my Halloween card, wishing you a happy Halloween, using almost completely all new products from the new release. The only thing that is existing are the rectangles. But I hope you check out the new release. You can use my link down below to get your pre-order. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!